It's probably 7, 8 weeks later. And just as I was about to quit, my friend popped in a Tony Robbins CD.
Oh, wow.
And Tony said something like this, and I might be butchering what he said. I mean, this is a long time ago. He said, most people fail for the simple reason they don't learn the right skills. They don't learn the right skills necessary to succeed. He went on to elaborate, it's not just about learning skills. We all learn things, we all learn skills, but he says, are you learning the right skills? And a light bulb went on in my head, like, because I never thought about like maybe what the company was training me, maybe what all these old sales gurus that I'm reading about in these books at the time, maybe what they're training me, maybe just maybe these are not the right skills. Maybe they're outdated skills, because the thought had never occurred to me at that time. I just took it as gospel, right? You got a book, it must be awesome. So I really took that to heart, and I committed that I was going to learn the art of persuasion, of communication, that I was going to become the best in my profession. I was going to do whatever it took to provide a great lifestyle for my family. Because if you're, like me, listening on this, you also want to provide a great lifestyle and living for your family, right? So here was my major dilemma. And I want you guys to think about what you would do, everybody listening. I was being taught, on one hand, traditional selling skills by all these old, gurus, as I call them. And some of them would work. I'd go out there, I'd knock on some doors, I'd ask this question, or I'd say this, comment, and it would work. I was like, oh my gosh, I made a sale. Like, heart's like rolling. I'm like, I made money, right? I can feed myself, But I also noticed a lot of what they were teaching me, a lot of their techniques really didn't work at all. And in fact, when I used them, I got way more objections. I actually lost sales because of what they were teaching me. Now, at the same time, imagine this. So I'm learning traditional selling skills by the company, by these gurus. At the same time, I'm going to college. And guess, oh, by the way, what was my major in? Behavioral science. Does everybody know what behavioral science is? Behavioral science is the study of human communication. So basically the study of persuasion. And I specialized in persuasion studies, why consumers make decisions, why they don't. And I also specialized in neuroscience. Does anybody know what neuroscience is? So it's the study of the brain. A lot of your top psychologists in the world are experts in behavioral neuroscience, right? That's why they get their clients to persuade themselves so they can overcome their own problems, right? So I was learning from my professors. These were world-renowned professors, by the way, about persuasion. And I want you to check this out. According to behavioral science, grab a pen and a piece of paper, everybody. According to behavioral science, and I wrote this down, there are 3 forms of communication. I want you to write these 3 forms down. I can promise you one thing. If you understand the differences in persuasion and where you're at now in your selling ability, your business, compared to where you can be, what I'm about to share with you can be life-changing. And if you don't learn anything from me, if you never go through any of our courses with Brian Tracy and I, or 7th level communication, just this one thing I'm about to share with you can completely transform your life in all areas. So according to behavioral science, number 1, get ready for this, drum roll. I never would have thought this. We are the least persuasive. We are the least persuasive when we tell people things. Write that down. We're the least persuasive when we tell people things or we attempt to dominate them, have posture with them. We're always taught how to have posture, right? Especially in direct sales. I know I was. And push them into doing something that we want them to do. Think about your spouse, Alex. When you try to push her into doing something you want her to do, what does she do? You're on mute.
She runs away, bro.
Yeah, so right, the walls come up, the defensive wall comes up, they either retreat, they hide, or they're just like, they argue.
Absolutely.
So according to science, it's the least persuasive. Now, underneath number 1, these are the forms of the least persuasive way to sell. Presenting. According to science, very low on the persuasion poll. How many of you have been taught that you have to have a great presentation? I know I was. According to science, it's not that persuasive. How about this for people in direct sales? Telling your story. You got to tell your story. You got to tell them how great the company is and how great the compensation plan is. And you got to get into the meeting and you got to get into the webinar. Just tell your story and be excited about it. And then somehow they're going to be excited themselves. Well, let me tell you something. Nobody cares about your story. I hate to break the bad news to you. Who do most people care about?
Themselves.
Themselves. They don't care about your story. Once you get that out of your head that people care about you, you're going to do a lot better in your business. Okay, I can tell you that for sure. Giving a sales pitch. How many have been taught? We got to give a great pitch. Not very persuasive on the poll. Putting sales pressure on people. How do you feel when a salesperson puts sales pressure on you?
Can't stand it.
Can't stand it. Maybe they can't stand it when we do it to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what about this? The big one. Assuming the sale. We're always taught we got to assume the sale, always be closing, pound them on the head, assume the sale. According to science, which is the facts, very low on the persuasive poll. Just doesn't work. That's when you hear the stories of, oh, selling is just a numbers game. Well, it is when it's not very persuasive, right? Okay, so I'll give you an example of this, and this is for people in direct sales. I'm assuming a lot of your audience is in direct sales with your company.
Yeah, most of them gonna be direct sales, and obviously any kind of selling, right? We all have to sell something. So
I'll give you an example for people who are in direct sales because I figured that would be most of the audience. Let's say that you're driving down the road with a friend, and they start saying, "Gosh, Amy, I hate my job. Like so much politics," and they just they demoted me. I lost 20% of my income this year. Like they're thinking about letting me go. And I'm so sick of this freaking commute. I'm literally commuting an hour and 15 minutes each direction. I'm not even seeing my son's baseball games. Like I don't like my job. Now, imagine you in direct sales. What would you say to that person? What would you usually say to that person right at that point? Alex,
you're like, oh, I've got the greatest opportunity. You should come to a webinar. It's going to explain everything for you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I just got started in this online business and it's so exciting. There's so many people making money and we've got these great products called XYZ licensing. And I know you're going to love them. In fact, we've got this webinar this Sunday at 5. You should really come up. There's going to be a top incomer that's going to show you the compensation plan. And we've got the best compensation plan. And we have a AAA rating by the Better Business Bureau. And we have the best this, and we have the best that. And then, does that sound familiar? Right? And then what does the person typically say that just said they don't like their job, they're not making enough money, they don't have enough time? What do they say? Oh, that sounds good. I just don't really have the time for that. Or that sounds good. I just don't have the money for that. Or I'm not interested in one of those pyramid things. Right? So typically the response. Mm-hmm. So what went wrong here? The prospect clearly has problems. They even told you what their problems are. They want to make more money. They want to have more time with little Johnny's baseball games. And you've got a solution in your direct sales business that can solve that. Right? They can work from home. They can have more time. They can make more money. They can have their own business. So what's the missing link? The missing link is only the way the person communicated to the prospect that lost the sale. Does everybody see how that happens? Okay? Absolutely. And that's unfortunate for both you and the prospect because the prospect situation remains the same. Their situation will not change because of the way you talk to them, right? And you lose out. You lose out on a person in your business. So typically what happens at that point? The person, now what do you guys call people in your business? I know some companies call them distributors, sponsors. What do you guys call them?
We have members, mentors, sponsors, because it's, we're direct sales, so it's only one.
We're direct sales. Okay, gotcha. So typically you go back to the person that got you in the business, like your sponsor, and you're like, oh gosh, I talked to 5 people this week and nobody joined. And the sponsor says what? Oh, that's fine. Selling is a numbers game. Yeah, it's just a numbers game. You got to go through 100 no's to get, a few people to join. And then that person goes back and just accepts that as, oh, it must be true if my sponsor told me. And they keep going out and talking to people about their business and they get rejected over and over again. So the question has to be asked for everybody on here. Are you willing to settle for the numbers game approach and work your butt off to the ground. You know, everybody's like, oh, you got to hustle more and work more. I guess if you want to, right? But are you willing to do that to have 9 out of 10 people turn you down? Because what else can your trainer say? What else can the person you're learning how to persuade and recruit say besides selling is a numbers game? When they say that, run the other way, because that's code word for saying the way I'm training you how to recruit and sell doesn't really work that well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, second form of communication. I get all crazy about that kind of stuff. Second form of communication, write this down.
Yep.
We're more persuasive. So we're more persuasive when we attempt to have a discussion or a debate. Now that's called consultative selling. Okay, write that down. It's called consultative selling. It came out in the late 1980s with a groundbreaking book called Spin Selling. Anybody ever heard of spin selling? Professor Neil Rouse or something like that. It's where they taught how to ask logical based questions. You needed to ask more questions to find out the needs of your clients. And back in the 80s, when boiler room selling, like Wolf on Wall Street selling was so going on like crazy, this was a groundbreaking work. But what's the problem with that approach? When you ask your prospects logical questions, they're going to do what? Give you logical answers back. And do people buy on logic or emotion?
They buy based on emotion and they justify based on logic.
We all hear that, but nobody knows what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a cliche, right? So let me give you an example for people in direct sales. If I ask John, my prospect, hey, John, let's say that we got you up to 200,000 in the next year in your business with me. What would you do with that money coming in? And John says, well, I'd pay off debt. I'd buy a new home. I'd be able to pay for my daughters to go to college. I'd be able to help my mom out who's getting older. That's a logical based question. What would you do with the money? And he just gave you logical answers back. Well, I'd pay off debt. I'd help my mom. I'd get out of, I'd pay for my daughter's tuition, right? So once again, it's more persuasive than the first mode, right? Of assuming the sale and being pushy and manipulative and telling your story. But you're still playing the numbers game because very little emotion is brought out by using logical based questions. Okay. Now the third mode, I'm not going to focus a lot on the second mode. Third mode. This is probably the most important if you want to have major results in your direct sales business. I know it transformed me, went from 0 to 2.5 million a year overnight. We are the most persuasive, write this down. We are the most persuasive when we allow others to persuade themselves. We're the most persuasive when we allow others to persuade themselves. That's called dialogue, kind of an old term for that, but it's now being called what we've developed at 7th level communications. Write this down. It's called neuro-emotional, going to get techie with you guys, neuro-emotional persuasion questioning. Neuro-emotional persuasion questioning. I know I'm a book nerd, right?
Love it.
Okay, so you're like, dude, how do I do that? How do I get others to persuade themselves? Like, do I just show up, Jeremy, and say, hey, prospect, will you just persuade yourself? And while you're persuading yourself, just please go ahead and here's the wire details. I want you to wire in $6,000 so you can start your business with me. No, obviously you can't do that. You have to learn specific skilled questions, when and how to ask them in a step-by-step system or structure that quite literally will get your prospects to sell themselves rather than you trying to do it. So go back here, put yourself in my shoes. So imagine at this point, I think I was 21, 22 college kid. You're learning traditional selling skills over here. At the same time, you're learning behavioral science and my world-renowned, psychologists that are teaching me these things. This is the most persuasive way to sell. This is what science says. This is what all the stats says. The old gurus are like, no, you got to pound them on the head, assume the sale, just, blah, 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 blah. Completely opposite approaches. So what do you do? I mean, what do you do as a 21 or 20-year-old kid? Like I was like completely lost. What would you do? I mean, what path, Alex, let me ask you, what path would you go down?
Are you talking about the 3 forms of communication? Obviously, I go with the third one.
I know, but the gurus are telling me it's the first one. But my science tell me this one. What do you do, right? So I came up, so I'm like, you know what? I need to mix this in. I need to take a little bit of this and mix this in here. So I came up with some of these neuro-emotional persuasion questions. They weren't called that at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of figuring it out, but I knew I didn't have this down. But that year, my sales more than tripled. I actually did quite well as a 21-year-old kid, but I didn't have all these questions down or when or how to ask them. I didn't have the structure down. Like I was still out there winging it, right? And how successful are people when they're out there winging it in anything? I mean, they can be okay successful, but they're never going to get to the highest level. But I was still losing a ton of sales that I should have made. So I came up with this slightly evil plan. It was a slightly evil plan. Do you want to know what my slightly evil plan was, Alex?
I would love to, and I would love if you tell us, 'cause I want to know myself.
Okay. All right. So my plan was I was going to cheat, and not in a bad way, not like, cheat on your exams or anything like that. But I was going to cheat. Like, seriously, I'm always trying to find ways, like, how do I do this easier, right? So I would go out. Here's what I was going to do. This was my mindset at 21 and a half. I was going to go out. I was going to find a sales and persuasion training course, because in my mind at that time, I thought surely that there has to be one out there that has all of these elements of behavioral science with these magical phrases and questions that I know I needed to learn to get my prospects to persuade themselves, to sell themselves. And it would be in a structured format. Like I would know what question to ask, when, how, all this stuff. I thought surely a sales trainer has made this. Like somebody has to know about this, not some stupid 21-year-old punk, Jeremy Minor. But you know what the problem was?
What was that?
After I bought, like literally probably spent all the money I made that year. I made about $150,000 that year as a 21-year-old salesman. I was in college. But after I bought every sales training course on planet Earth, I went to every single sales training conference. Like, not kidding, every weekend I was at a sales training conference somewhere. I was reading hundreds of sales books. It just consumed all my time outside of work. I actually spent close to $100,000 in the next 2 years on sales training, trying to find that course. Well, after I did all that, spent all that money, that dream course that I thought was out there, it didn't exist. It didn't exist in entirety. There'd be a few spots here and there, a few golden nuggets, but it was never put together. So what do you do then after you spend all that money? I mean, it's good tax write-offs, I guess, like, what do you do? I got married, I started a kid. I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? So it was like a big letdown for me. I was bummed because I knew I didn't have all this down. Like, I knew I might know 10%, but I decided right then and there that I was going to master this, that I was going to incorporate everything I was learning from behavioral science into selling. I would create the freaking course myself. Okay. And I know, well, wow, it sounds really aspiring. Not really. It sucked. It was a lot of work. I went through a lot of freaking trial and error. Okay. Because here's what I had to do that. I had to watch every prospect's reaction to my words. I found that certain words that I was saying would trigger sales resistance and objections. So I had to go back and eliminate those words and phrases from how I sold. I'd ask questions that would work and some wouldn't. I had to go back and rephrase those questions. I'd have to put them in a different order in the sales process. And through trial and error over several years, actually about 12 years, not a few months, but 12 freaking years, I created a black book of phrases and questions that literally skyrocketed my career. So check this out.
Okay.
And like I said, I didn't have time to put together slides or anything. I'm too busy, dude. So from 2000 to 2001, when I started learning this, like I told you, I made $150,000 that first year. By 2004, selling the same thing, my income went to $345,000. It was right in that range, almost $350,000 as an employee, just a little punk kid. I continued refining my skills, developing these questions, getting my prospects to persuade themselves. By 2006, a couple years later, I made almost $800,000 that year as a sales, straight commission sales job. Okay. And by 2008, this was right before I got into direct sales, my persuasion abilities took really a quantum leap, and I made over 1.2 million that year as a salesperson. Okay. And I kept learning I kept learning after that. I'm like, I don't have it all down. Like, I made this much money, but like, I know I can do a lot better. So by 2012, I pretty much fully mastered this process, and my income, and that was a year I was in direct sales, went to 2.5 million in straight commissions in my direct sales business. Irene says, what was he selling? What was he selling? I sold a bunch of things. I sold alarms. I sold debt management services. I was in direct sales. That's where I won that big award, number 45 in the world. And I also sold marketing conferences and different things. So that was the year that finally NEPQ was fully developed. Remember, that stands for Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questions.
Great.
Right?
So, yep. So Jeremy, so you developed this thing. You got this wonderful thing called NEPQ, right? For sure. Just keep it simple. And so you start crushing all these sales records. And so how and when did you really get into direct sales? Like, like we're in right now.
Yeah. All right. So here's how it happened. So I got invited to a recruiting meeting in Provo, Utah, because that's where I had my corporate career. That's why I went to college out there. And it was a company called Nu Skin. Anybody heard about Nu Skin?
Yep.
Yeah, massive company. They make billions a year. And I went to this recruiting meeting. There's probably a couple hundred people there. And there was a gentleman by the name of Nathan Ricks, and he was their #1 distributor in the world. And he was up there training. He was making like $2 or $3 million a year. And I'm sitting here like looking at this guy. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy is like amazing. Like he makes all this money and he's so incredible. And, he brought up this slide. He's like, I was just ranked number 50th in the world and all of these network marketing companies. And I'm like, good gosh, like this guy is like the best of the best of the best. He's better than everybody. And the guy that brought me to the meeting, he was directly sponsored by Nathan. So he brought me up after the meeting to meet him. And Nathan like really shrugged me off. And I'm a guy that doesn't get offended about anything. Like I'm pretty low key. Like I don't really care. Just, if I can watch a football game on Saturday, I'm pretty happy. Right. So he shrugs me off and I'm like, dude, that's kind of lame. But I really thank him for that because it triggers something in me. I went home and I wrote this down. I actually still have this card here. So this was September 27th, the year 2006. So like 11 years ago. I know I'm weird. I always keep all these things. But I said today I'm creating the possibility that by 2016, September 27th of the year 2016, so a year ago, that I will be named and recognized as a top 200 network marketer in the entire world. My goals weren't as big then. When I make this list, I will be grateful and full of passion for the people I've helped to get me to this achievement. And I signed it, be the best, Jeremy Miner. Now, I did that a little bit earlier than the 10-year mark. I think it took me about 3 years.
Wow.
Going from 0 people to 2.5 million to get into the top 100 people. And so here's the reason why I bring that up. If a kid from Osceola, Missouri, town of 755 people who doesn't have a stoplight or even a Walmart, can have success in direct sales or selling or anything, then what the heck is holding anybody on this call from doing the same thing? And the funny thing that happened is I got into the top 100, I think it was in 2009, 2010, and I was ranked, I won that award by the Direct Selling Association, Home Business Magazine, ranked number 45 in the entire world out of 80 million some people. Guess who was ranked number 44?
The guy who basically was, that you met? Or who?
Yeah, I brought this up. I don't know if you guys can see this. Nathan Ricks.
That's so funny. That was the guy, right? That was the guy that basically messed you up.
Yeah, you can't make this up, man. It's crazy.
That's hilarious.
Seriously, so when this listing came out, he beat me by like $3,000 a month. He beat me by 30 grand a year. And I'm like, take that, Nathan. Like, you should have had me in your organization. Like, what the heck? So here's the deal. So that's how I got in direct sales. And when I got in, everybody's like, who is this guy? Like, he's going from, the first year I was a top person in the entire company. And it was a massive company. Like, who the hell is this kid? But here's the thing. They're like, does he have some special Google advertising? Is he like this amazing marketer? Right. You know what I was doing? I was buying generic leads from lead lists that were like $1 a lead. I just know how to communicate with those people because I knew they had problems. I knew they wanted to make more money and have more time. And everybody thought it was like some Google AdWords was a big thing back then. They're like, oh my gosh, this guy's had no clue. Didn't know how to do any of that. So here's the deal. It took me 12 years of trial and error, ups and downs, to fully master the new model, what's being called the new model selling, or NPQ. So the question is, I'm going to ask everybody on here, because I'm going to let everybody have access to some of this training. Does anybody on here have access? CJ Kober said, I totally get it. Yeah. Does anybody on here today have time for a 12-year learning curve on how to persuade? Anybody? 12-year? Like, do you guys want to wait 12 years? I'm totally cool with that. Like, it took me 12 years. I think you guys should go to the pain that I had to freaking go through. So does anybody have time to go through all that crap? So I had to do it the hard way. We
want the easy way. Show us.
But I'm gonna let you guys cheat, like, in a good way. I'm gonna let you guys do it the easy way. So how many of you on here would rather cut out all the trial and error, the long learning curve that it takes to become a master persuader? If you want the easy way, have them come to the chat bar and say, hey, give me the easy way. I want to cheat. Give me the easy way.
Everybody, write it right now, right? You guys wanted the easy way, so Jeremy can tell us, because I don't want to wait 12 years.
You know what? I'm going to wait till I have a bunch of easy ways, or I'm not going for it. You know, there's a good football game on right now.
Give me the eat sheet. I want to cheat. I want to cheat. Easy way, easy way, easy way.
Guys, I was watching some amazing football games in my living room, and I had to come in here to do this.
I know. You got a homecoming. Guys, he's taking time before his daughter's homecoming.
I got to take pictures with my
He's got to take pictures. This is important.
I'm not doing it if you guys don't say you
It is easy blowing up on the chat line. Cheat, cheat, cheat. Easy way. All right, you got to tell us.
All right.
This thing is exploding.
All right, so I'm going to ask this question. Why is all of this so important to everybody on here right now? Why not keep recruiting and selling the way you've always done it? Why not just keep playing the numbers game, hoping that something you say to your prospect is just going to make them want to sign up with you? Why not do it that way? You know what's the biggest problem that we all have in life? And what's the biggest problem in selling or anything? The biggest problem in sales and recruiting, write this down, is the problem you don't know you have.
Right.
The biggest problem we have is the problem we don't know we have. Because if you don't know what your problem is, then how on earth do you fix it? But once you know what the problem is, whose responsibility is it to change your situation and solve that problem? Alex, whose responsibility is it?
Ourselves. I'm 100% responsible, brother.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's your mom's responsibility, your wife's, your husband's, whatever. Maybe it's your child's responsibility. But let me ask you this question. What was the first sales model created for salespeople? Does anybody know? Type it in the chat box. What was the year that the first sales model was ever created? Anybody know? Take some guesses.
My God.
Take a guess.
Geez, man, it's like the bartering system back in the old days. I didn't even know you're talking actual sales or bartering.
Somebody said 1950. Herb said 1950. Somebody said 1998. Randall said 1920. Randall, keep going lower. It's older than 1920. Keep going.
Time sounds about right from Tori.
Let me tell you when the sales model that everybody on here is using now was created. 1898. Oh, by the way. So 1898. Wow. And it was created by a man that sold circuses. Go Google this. His name is Saint. He was a saint. Saint Elias Elmo Lewis. Saint Elias with an E, Elmo Lewis. And it was called the AIDA model of selling. AIDA. AIDA. Here's the interesting part. Guess what sales model is used by 99% of all people selling anything in the world in 2017?
That same one, huh?
The same freaking model from 1898. Anybody remember that old sales movie? If you're in sales or whatever, there's a movie that was made back in the early 1990s. AIDA, yeah, Carla. AIDA. AIDA. It stands for attention, interest, desire, action. Google that. Does anybody remember the old movie in the 90s called Glengarry Glen Ross, right? Where he says, coffee's for closers. Right? If you go watch that video again up on the chalkboard, you're going to see AIDA spelled out. Do you guys remember that? Mm-hmm. And he always says you gotta always be closing. ABCs of closing. Pound them on the head, right? So let's take a look at this. I want to take a look at the AIDA model because maybe you guys should just keep using it. Maybe it just works really awesome. I don't know. I could be wrong. But let me ask you this question first. And then I'm going to give you some specific examples, especially for direct sales that you guys can use. starting today. Does the consumer of 2017 buy the same way, think the same way, and have the same buying behaviors as consumers did in 1898?
Absolutely not.
Anybody? Probably not. Do they have the same buying behaviors as they did in the 1950s?
Nope.
Probably not. What about the 80s or 90s?
No.
Nope. What about even 10 years ago, before social media really came up?
Before an iPhone? No way, brother.
Probably not. So why has the consumer changed? Think about it. It's very simple. 20 plus years ago, so this is the late 90s, what was the bridge between the company and the consumer? It was, of course, the salesperson, right? The company would send out the salesperson to educate the public about their products or services. Besides TV, radio, maybe newspapers, this was the only way the consumer learned about your product. But now, with the power of technology and the ease of the internet, and especially social media, we live in a completely different era. You see, the consumer, they know all about your company. They know about your products, your services, your pricing, who your competitors are, how long you've been in business. They know everything about you by doing what? By doing a simple Google search on a freaking phone now. And because of this newfound power that the consumer has, they will no longer be manipulated or pressured into buying something by a pushy salesperson or somebody trying to recruit them. Because why? Because they know they have many other choices to choose the exact product or service that you actually sell, right? So I want to preference something here. Anybody on here, if you've been struggling to recruit and close more sales, it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. You have just been taught, like I was in the beginning, outdated sales techniques. These sales techniques, like you understand now, were developed over 100 years ago, and for the most part, very rarely work on most people in our time. So I don't blame you if you've been struggling. I was once in your shoes. It freaking sucks. So let's talk about the old model. I'm going to talk about the new model. Then I'm going to give you all these examples so you guys can go out and crush it. All right. So old model. In the old model of selling, the AIDA model of selling, only 10% of that model was about building trust. The salesperson would come into the office or the home of the potential customer, and they'd try to find something in common. Oh, hey, how's the weather? Or who won the football game last night? Or, oh, is that your daughter over there? Just got married. My daughter got married too, right? Basically a bunch of BS, right? That has nothing to do with why you're there. And do you think your prospects know that? Do you pick up on this when people are trying to recruit you into their business or try to sell you something? Anybody pick up on that? It's like, whoa, salesperson, the sirens go off, right? So after that, 10% would be about identifying needs. That's the next 10% in the model. So we're up to 20%. The salesperson was taught how to ask a few questions such as, Mr. Jones, can you tell me 2 to 3 problems that you're experiencing now and what you'd like to see happen to fix those problems? The prospect would then rattle off a few generic problems to the salesperson with logical answers that are really only the surface of what's really going on. And then at that point, the salesperson does what? They go into their pitch, right? Their solution, their presentation. That's 50%. Write this down. 50% of the AIDA old model of selling. What do? Oh, all these features and benefits. And look at our shiny, nice corporate office here on my presentation. And we've got the best company and we've got the best compensation we plan. We've got the best this. We've got the best that. Which, by the way, everyone in sales and direct sales says. Does anybody ever come up to you and says, yeah, we've got the 5th best compensation?
Nope.
Yeah. We've got the 7th best product line in health and wellness for sure. Anybody ever hear that? No? They always say they have the best, right? So it's like in one ear, out the other, like, everybody says that, right? Now, the last 30% of the sale, they go in for the close. And then what happens? What happens when they try to close? Prospect throws out objections, right? Then the salesperson has to try and overcome those objections and try to close them again and again. And at that point, the salesperson then starts to chase them and tries to convince them to purchase. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Right? Sound familiar? That's a tough way to survive. right? Tori says, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
So in the traditional sales model, it's all about getting the sale at the expense of the human relationship with your potential customer. It's a salesperson against the customer mentality, like you're going to war every day against your prospects, trying to manipulate them and win them over to the sale. And that model primarily focuses on what? Presenting, closing, objection handling. That's 80%. And it puts the emphasis on who? It puts it on you and your agenda of trying to make the sale. Now, I have to ask a very silly question, just crazy question here. Who do you think the customer cares more about? You and your agenda of trying to recruit them and make the sale? Or do you think they care more about themselves and solving their problems?
Obviously, themselves.
I mean, maybe. I don't. Maybe they do.
IFM. What's in it for me? That's what they want to know.
I mean, that's a crazy idea. Alex, stop it. Why would they ever care about themselves? All right, so think about it. Do you like being pushed? Yeah, McNair says themselves. So, do you like being pushed into buying something or talk to someone whose only agenda is to get what they want? Anybody? No. You do one of two things when that happens. When somebody pushes you into doing something they want you to do, you either, one, get defensive, throw out objections, the flag comes up, salesman alert, got to get rid of them and reject what they're offering. That's number one. Or number two, oh, that seems really interesting. Can you give me a brochure? Maybe call me back in a week, and you withdraw from them, trying to be nice. You never return their text messages. You ignore their emails. You ignore their phone calls, and you go into the twilight zone and you disappear. Anybody ever do that when a salesperson's trying to sell to you? One of those two things? Okay. Have you considered, Vernie's like, yes, every day, Elliot. Have you considered that your potential clients are doing the same thing to you because of the way you've been taught how to communicate to them? Marcia says, yes, indeed. So who on here would like to change that? Who on here wants to sell more, recruit more, and stop playing the deadly numbers game? The deadly number game sucks. Who wants to make more money and provide a great lifestyle for you and your family every day? Who wants to do that?
Everybody. They're all me. That's awesome.
Hey, we don't have to, though. We can just keep doing it the way we've been doing it. It works. Okay.
This obviously makes sense. So
I don't know if it makes sense. So what are the results?
Can you share a little bit about this new model, what you got going on here, buddy? So we can get better results.
Yeah. I'm going to do it. Give me about a minute. I've got one more thing. I want to show you guys the results. So here's the results of all this traditional selling. I mean, there's tons of sales training out there from all these old sales gurus, right? I've got some of their books back here. So what are the results that you and other salespeople are getting from learning those type of traditional selling skills? Well, here's according to the latest stats from payscale.com. As of January 2017, the average salesperson in North America, drum roll, makes $42,670 a year. Anybody getting sales to only make $42,000 a year? Anybody? No? You know what another disturbing fact is? Guess what the average earner in direct sales makes? This is even more disturbing. Wow, because they know all about those recruiting and selling skills. Same industry, so they make less than $21,000 a year. Did anybody get into an online business to make $21,000 a year? Anybody? Yeah. I mean, hell, I could probably stick my son out here in front of my house with a lemonade stand and probably have him make more than that in a year. So we all know, right? So how do we do that, Jeremy? How do we change this, right? Let's take a look at NEPQ, the new model of selling, and then I'm going to give you, like I said, a few examples, questions that you guys can use starting tonight or tomorrow to get your prospects to start to open up to you instead of shutting you out. And then finally, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to learn NEPQ and know what questions to ask, when to ask those, how to ask them so you can close more sales in far less time. When you close more sales in far less time, what happens? NEPQ. Yes, Randall, NEPQ. So who might be interested in selling more than you are now and actually feeling good about it? Like feeling comfortable. Who wants to feel comfortable when you're communicating and not feel like that greasy, slimy, used car salesperson?
Give it to us, Jeremy. We want to know how we can get better results and get more sales.
Shoot me. All right. So let's take a look on how you can change your results and stop losing so many sales that you could be making right now. Heather says yes. Now, in our time, write this down. The sale is not made at the end with outdated closing techniques and objection handling skills. It's made during what's called the engagement process. Write down engagement process. The engagement process is 85% of your success now. The sale, and it's where both you and your potential customer are discovering from each other what their problems are, what's caused those problems, and more importantly, how those problems are affecting them to see if you can actually help them. And it's just like in romance, the term engagement refers to a period of getting to know another person before you marry him. The same is true in persuasion and communication. The engagement process is where your potential customer is persuading themselves from your skilled questions. Remember, what are those questions called? Neuro-emotional persuasion questions. These questions get your prospect to open up and tell you what their problems are, why they have them, how it's affecting them, but more importantly, who are they also telling their problems to? Anybody know?
All their family members, I imagine.
They're telling themselves.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Telling themselves. When they tell you, they tell, psychologically, they tell themselves, right? But more, so they're telling themselves. And is it more persuasive when your customer you're talking to is telling themselves why they need to change their situation? Or is it more persuasive when you tell them they should change their situation? Which is more persuasive?
Obviously.
I don't know.
Themselves.
I mean, according to behavioral science, it's actually, write this down. According to behavioral science, it's I don't know where they get the stat, 5 to 10 times more persuasive.
Wow.
5 to 10 times. Imagine you only making 5 times more sales and recruiting 5 times as many people you are now. And oh, by the way, training your team how to recruit 5 times more people. What would that do for your business financially? What would it do? Anybody? Any guesses? So how do you do that? You learn the skills in NEPQ. All right. Explosion. So here's a sales structure. I'm going to give you guys a sales structure, and then I'm going to give you some of these questions. Here's a sales structure that you're going to need to know. Cammy's like, get in here, Dad, pictures. I'm like, wait, I'm too involved. Here's what you're going to need to know to get your prospects to sell themselves. While you kick back, start taking orders, and have your people start chasing you. Anybody got a call here? Somebody calling?
Is that yours or mine, brother? Because we're the only ones on.
It's not mine.
Sorry about that.
Not me. I don't know who that is.
I'm not sure where that's from, brother. Sorry.
That's weird.
We don't have anybody else on. Sorry, Jeremy.
Well, I didn't see any phone call. Maybe it was me. I don't know what's going on. Somebody's going to call me. Tell me. All right. So, okay. So here's a sales structure you're going to need to learn. Write these questions down. First of all, you're going to need to learn connecting questions. Connecting questions take the focus off of you and puts the focus on your potential customer. Completely different. Number 2, lines are blowing up. All right. Number 2, background questions. You're going to learn background or situation questions. That helps you find out what their present situation is, what they do for a living now. Do they like what they're doing for a living? If you're in direct sales. Then you're going to learn what's called problem awareness questions. What are their problems? Why do they have those? What's caused them? How it's affecting them? And I'm going to fly through these. You're going to learn solution awareness questions. You find out, and they find out, what they've done in the past to solve their problem, and it gets them to emotionally attach to actually doing something and creating an urgency to do it now and not later. You're also going to need to learn what are called consequence questions, which lets them see the consequences of them not changing their situation. What are the consequences of them not joining your business? They're not going to make as much money, and they're not going to have time, right? So they see the consequences themselves rather than you telling them what those are. You're also going to learn what are called qualifying questions, and you're going to be able to learn transitional questions that help you present back the benefits of your solution that they have told you they're looking for which, by the way, in the new model is only about 10% of how we sell now. So all you're doing is you're simply taking their answers they told you from the questions you've asked, and you're matching the correct features and benefits to them. All right. Here's what most people do in selling. 99% go out there and it's like throwing a bucket of mud against the wall. They take the bucket of mud, you throw it up against the wall, hope and pray that something they say is just going to stick and they're just going to freaking sign up and join. But here, with what I'm going to show you guys, and just literally like 2 minutes away, you never have to play the hoping game. I call it hopium anymore. Because of your NEPQ questions, you already know what mud to throw on the wall. So now you're going to know what mud to throw on the wall because you know what's going to stick. Because why? Because they've told you from your questioning ability. Okay? Now, here's what's completely sane in the new model. Only 5% of the new model is closing. Those are called commitment questions or committing questions. You're going to learn how to ask a few committing questions so they take the logical next step and purchase and enroll in your business. So the stress, the anxiety, the hair pulling, the madness, the frustration that you might be feeling now is completely eliminated. Why? Because it's a natural process. Your prospect doesn't feel any sales pressure. Now, can I ask anybody, how easy would it be for you to recruit and sell if your prospect didn't feel any sales pressure from you? Would it be easier or would it be harder? Do prospects like to feel sales pressure? I don't know, crazy. So how do most people view people in network marketing, direct sales, salespeople? Oh, this person's trying to stuff their solution down my throat. So what I'm going to show you is how to go from that negative salesperson who's there trying to push them into joining or signing up into what I call the trusted authority, the expert that's going to help them change their situation. Okay, so enough of all that stuff, enough of theory. I'm going to give you some questions that you can start using tonight, tomorrow, whenever you're out to close more sales, recruit more people. Okay, so what do you do? What do you do when a prospect who says, I just don't have enough money, Jeremy, to start this business? So if a prospect says, Jeremy, I really want to do this business, I just don't have enough money, I'm sorry. What do most people in direct sales say? Tell me, what do they say?
Well, then you really need to have then you really should be getting started with our business if you don't have the money.
Yeah, we really need to have it. In fact, we've got this special financing program. It's going to be awesome. You should sign up for it. And what does the customer typically do? I don't want to go into debt. It's immediate knee-jerk reaction, right? Because there's no emotion. You say that you have financing, no emotion in that. Doesn't solve the problem. All they think is more debt, more debt, more debt. So here are some NEPQ questions that I'm going to give you that you can use on your prospect to help them overcome this money concern, because I know it's a big concern for people in direct sales, and do that as two people working together rather than you using some type of manipulative objection handling comeback rebuttal. Oh, I've got the perfect rebuttal. What happens when you typically argue with people and rebut them? Do they come over to your way of thinking?
No.
Do they change their mind? No, they just push back. You lose, right? Randall says you freaking lose. It's right. I hate the word rebuttals. Like what? Really? Okay. So they put up sales resistance automatically. So let's do this. So a prospect says, hey, Amy, we just don't have the money for this. We can't afford this. Here's the first thing out of your mouth in direct sales. Yeah, that's not a problem. Calm, polite, matter of fact. Write this down. Yeah, that's not a problem. Now, this is a simple way to diffuse the objection and take the sales. It's just a bridge term to take the sales pressure out of the room. You just say, yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me, John, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? So write this question down. Yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me, John, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? Now, you don't say, tell me, John, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? You can't sound like a robot. You got to be natural. Tell me, John, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? Notice how I paused. Notice my tonality. Now write this down. This is an NEPQ committing question. That's a committing question right there. Okay. Hopefully you recorded this in case you can't write all this down fast enough.
This is all recorded, brother.
typically, if you've done your job right in the process, most of your prospects are going to say, yeah, I think it really would. We just don't have the money though. Okay. Now, if you're using any PQ throughout your conversation, they're always going to agree, say, yeah, I think it would. And when they say that, they tell you, but more importantly, who are they telling?
Themselves.
Telling themselves why they feel it's what they're looking for. So you're starting to get it. And then you're immediately going to ask this question. Hold on though. Why do you feel like it is though? So let me role play. Yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me, if you did have the funding, is this something that would work for you? Yeah, I really think it would. Hold on though. Why do you feel like it would though? That is called an NEPQ probing question. Write that down. Probing. NEPQ probing question. Did you see how my voice was skeptical? Okay. Top experts, top authority figures who are detached from the expectations of making that sale, I'm only focused on whether or not I can help them, not making the sale. So they look at me as an expert. Eager salespeople, needy salespeople would never be skeptical. They'd be like, oh, really? You do? Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so excited that you really think this is awesome for you. I'm skeptical. Well, hold on, though. Why do you feel like it is, though? Well, because, and they get defensive. They're like, well, because, it's, of course, I like it because I'd be able to work from home or around my kids and I'd be able to make more money. They tell you, and they tell who? Themselves. And then you're going to say this. This is called an empathy statement. I know, crazy geeky stuff. Yeah, John, and I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you've told me. And I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you told me. See, I just went into their world. I'm showing empathy. I'm not trying to posture them. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your interest level? Are you in or you out? I'm out. Right? That shit doesn't work anymore, guys. It's funny when I hear people still using that stuff. All right. And then you're going to ask, I can appreciate that money might be an issue from what you've told me. Tell me, John, how do you think you can resolve that where you can find the funding to be able to start your own business so you can start making more money to have more time with your family? You see how I did that? Tell me, how do you think you can resolve that where you can find the funding to, what's the benefit for them? Start their own business so they can, and we plug in what they told us they said they wanted. She said she wanted to make more money and have more time with their family. Do you see how I associate with them coming up with the funding does what for them?
Gives them the solution to their problems and takes the pain away.
It takes the pain away. Them not coming up with the funding does what for them?
Has them stay in the same place
and in the same place, the same situation. Nothing changes. See how that works? Now that's called, write this down, that's called an NEPQ solution awareness question. Solution awareness question. Now, when you ask this question, I want you to watch and see their body language and how they open up to you. Because a lot of people would be like, well, I guess I could get some funds out of my 401k, or, I do have a credit card with a few thousand on. I could probably move things around to get the budget for this. They'll come up with ways themselves to pay for it rather than you saying, well, you should do this, or you should do a credit card, or you should get it out of your 401k. They're going to come up with it because of your questioning ability. Now, sometimes they might not. Sometimes they might say, oh, well, Philip says creative financing. Well, once again, just logic. Creative financing means what in most people's mind? Debt, 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 debt. It's bleeding debt, okay? Now, the prospect might come back and say, yeah, Jeremy, I really like this, but I'm sorry, I don't have the budget for this. And I just nod my head and said, I understand. I guess what other avenues do you have to find the funding to be able to start your own business? What other avenues do you have to find the funding to be able to start your own business? Write that down. It's called an NEPQ solution awareness question. That's a solution awareness question. Now, a lot of prospects at this point will come up with ways. Well, I guess I could borrow it from Dan. He lives down in a van down by the river, but I know he's got money, or I could get it from my mom, or a home equity line of credit, or whatever. They're going to come up with ways. Now, if they still can't come up with ways to get the funds, you're going to say this. Well, can I make a suggestion to you? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Jeremy. Have you ever considered putting it on some type of credit card and just paying it off when you make your first few profits once you actually start the business with me? Would that help you? Notice at the end I said, Would that help you? Because why? I want them to understand that I'm in it for who?
Them.
Them. I don't care about me, right? I'm a problem finder and a problem solver. I'm not a product pusher. You see
Sure.
the difference in that? All right. So question, you said you're going to ask me another question. You just hit me up on a message. What were you going to ask me?
Yes, dude, this actually been awesome. So
Sorry. That last question was an NEPQ diffusing question. That was another diffusing question. Go ahead. What were you going to ask me, dude?
well, I'm just looking at it, man. We've been really talking about this. So you answered a lot of them. I was gonna ask you about an example how we can help recruit more. Was that it, or you got a few more?
That's all I'm going to give you for now because it's 6:04.
I know you got your thing. Well, this has been great. So let me ask you my last one because I know you've got to catch your daughter's stuff, and we ran a little bit over. So I know you and I talked about a little bit about before about what you're willing to give everyone here access to a little bit of training, which I know we got some in our back office.
Yeah.
I know you talked about a new master class that you and Brian had basically put together, right?
Yeah. So Brian Tracy, so about 6 weeks ago, Brian Tracy International and his team and my team, we met out at his offices in San Diego, and we really wanted to put our heads together. Like, how can we help more salespeople? Like, what can we do? And we were there probably about 4 or 5 hours, and at the end of that, we formed a partnership. So Brian Tracy's people,
Awesome.
all the people that's reading his books, people that's on his list, they're going to start coming to us for kind of more specialized individual training, more advanced training than just reading books and those type of things.
Guys, are you getting that? Like, he's partnered with Brian Tracy. Like, that's so huge. I just want everyone to get that, Jeremy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Dude, I'm not that cool, but thanks very much. Okay, so Brian Tracy and we wanted to put together this master class for people to really help them get to a level of selling, communication, persuasion, and recruiting ability that most people only freaking dream about. Okay, so we've been working on this. It's been about 7 weeks, 6-7 weeks, because here's the deal. You know that if you sell more of your products, that you make more money. Right? You also know that if you have a higher closing ratio when you recruit, that you make more money in less time, right? And you also know that having accountability, mentorship, and knowing what NEPQ questions to ask and when and how to ask those will make you far more successful financially in your business, right? This is why, like I said, Brian and I put together the master class for people just like people. And the crazy thing is, I looked at our stats, almost 20%. We have about 200,000 people just in my company, which I just started here like 16 months ago. We've had 200,000 salespeople in the world go through our materials.
Wow.
About 20% of those people are in direct sales. We looked it up. It's crazy.
Awesome.
So if you want to close more sales and recruit more, if you want to make more money, if you want to do it in less time, and you want to do it without being that awkward, sleazy, pushy salesperson that nobody likes, you know what I mean, then the program is for you. Okay, so we have 7 modules in this class. So module number 1, you can write this down. You'll see it. I think you're going to have access to it in your back office. Is called How Selling Has Changed. Okay, I talked a little bit about it today. You're going to go into a lot more detail. How the internet and social media has completely changed the ball game. So you're going to learn how to avoid the traps that most salespeople unknowingly are putting themselves in every single day by the way they've been taught how to communicate. Module 2 is more about NEPQ. I'm going to give you some basic stuff, not advanced yet. You're not ready, but you're going to learn step-by-step questioning system that will get your prospects to persuade themselves. So I gave you a few of those questions today. Okay, module 3, you're going to learn what's called the instant connection process. So you can go much deeper with every prospect much faster. So whether you're calling your leads for your business, you're talking to friends and family, or you're even messaging somebody through Facebook Messenger about your business, this process will help you close at a much higher and much faster rate. Module 4, it's kind of a weird one. Brian came up with this. I'm like, okay, we'll name it that. It's called Crush Your Competition. So imagine Brian here, he's 75. He's like, we got to have one called Crush Your Competition.
All right.
I
like the fact he thought that was the weird. You thought that was the weird one.
I'm like, okay, Crush Your Competition. Okay. So you're going to learn what's called a 2 truths question that will instantly bond your prospect to you and away from your competition magically. Module 5 is all about eliminating sales resistance. You're going to learn how to avoid what I call trap words that cause your prospects to say no. Literally forces them to say no. Even if they want to join you, it forces them to say no. Trap words. You got to get rid of those trap words. They're killing your business, killing you. Module 6, you're going to learn how to get your prospect to overcome their own objections. So you're going to master what I put together. It's a 3-step formula that will effortlessly diffuse any and all objections. And finally, module 7 is how to close. You're going to master the art of how to get your prospects to close themselves. So you stop chasing them. Guys, do you like chasing people, begging them to buy? Good gosh, why would anybody want to do that, right? Hell no. Have them chase you. You can only do that if you get them to persuade themselves, okay? Now, Ultimate Closers Masterclass. I'm going to give this to you at no cost, I think, right? And we're going to give it to you at no cost. It's like an hors d'oeuvre, right? It's like an hors d'oeuvre. We let you kind of try it out. Now, we, of course, have more advanced training programs that people invest in to completely dominate in their sales professional, especially direct sales. One of those is called the Elite 8-Week Academy. That's where you're going to learn 100% of NEPQ, what questions to ask, when, how to ask those in a step-by-step sales structure so you can recruit pretty much anybody. I will tell you that training course and what we put together for you is exactly what I used to become the number 45 top incomer in the entire world in direct sales in less than 4 years without any team when I started in the industry. Alex, that's all I've got. Any questions you have real quick?
Brother, I know you're running really late and you got your daughter's thing. So don't worry so much on the Q&A. If you need to run off, I'll finish it off because I know you got to.
I'll do a couple minutes. I'll do a couple questions.
You sure? I don't want your daughter to kill you. That's very important.
She already texted me.
Guys,
she's like,
we got 5 minutes. How much? Okay, we're going to talk about the course and everything else. What, and everyone say, thank you, Jeremy. This was awesome stuff. Does anybody have any, like seriously, just any selling questions? Like maybe you guys have some questions like how would you overcome this or that? That would be, I think that would be really helpful for anybody. He did a great job with the financing because I asked him to cover that because I know that was one of the things we wanted to cover.
Hey, Jeremy.
Shoot away, Brian.
I'm reading one question that I have the same question, and Carla asks, give us one example of a trap word.
Signing up. Never say the word sign up. Never say the word sign up. So I'm going to send you a form so you can sign up in my business. It is a freaking word that triggers sales resistance with most people. Never say the word sign up and never say the word contract. Never say those words. Here's how you relanguage that. Okay, so I'm going to send you an enrollment agreement. Just go ahead and authorize that agreement and just send it back, and then I can get you started at that point. So instead of sign the contract, you say authorize the agreement. Says the same thing, but it's neutral, right? When nobody wants to sign up for anything because sign up means what?
Commitment.
That means commitment.
Contract means what?
Commitment.
I'm locked in. Mm-hmm. Authorizing the agreement is far more neutral language.
You use the word enrollment form too. So that was the other part, guys. Hope you got that enrollment, which is a lot easier. Here's another one. How do you overcome the lack of willingness for someone to commit to being able to watch a webinar? So if someone says, well, you know, this looks great, but I don't even have enough time to watch the webinar. You know, can you just tell, like, what would you suggest?
Well, first of all, the reason why they're saying that is because of why?
Because they don't know what the information is, or they're afraid they're going to have to commit to something.
Well, it's because of the way we've communicated to them that triggers them not to have any emotional involvement to want to change their situation. Yeah. So we have to learn NEPQ because the way you're selling to them actually force them to say, I don't have time to be on the webinar. It really is. So if they still said that at that point, which I don't think I've ever had anybody in the history of direct sales tell me that, I would just say, well, what's holding you back from going to the webinar? I would probably ask a clarifying question. They would tell me, I say, well, you don't have to go to the webinar. I mean, how important is it for you to change your situation and start making more money?
Right.
You don't have to. I mean, I guess you can keep doing what you're doing now if you'd like. Okay, but like I said, a lot of it is triggered by the way you communicated and that forced them to say that.
Got it. So even this other one that would be, hey, I like to do this down the line, but not now, even though we've got some really great, crushing bonuses for them to get started right away.
Well, like I said, you don't have to start your own business to make more money.
So you're always going to bring it back.
I mean, how important is it for you to change your situation and start making more money? It's just a simple conversation you're having, guys. You got to understand when you take them through the process that I'm going to give you access to with the Ultimate Closers Masterclass, 8-week academy, these advanced courses, people persuade themselves that they want to start now.
Exactly. They're telling themselves.
They're telling themselves why they have to change now. When they tell themselves why they have to change now. So let me give you a consequence question, okay? And we'll end it here.
Sure.
So, John, can I ask you another question? Yeah, sure, Jeremy, go ahead. And I hate to ask you this because I've enjoyed what you've said, but what are you going to do if nothing changes? I mean, if you just stay in your job the next 5 or 10 years.
Right.
You see the consequence of that. Oh, well, I've got to change. Something's got to change. Okay, but why change now? Why not just change later? Oh, because I've got to do it now because I don't have enough time for my kids. I don't have time. Now, they're not going to come back and say at the end, sorry, I'll get on one of those webinars in like 3 months from now. You never have anybody say that because they've already told you why they have to change now. And when you invite them to the webinar, they're not going to be like, they're going to be like, oh, shit, that's my daughter's ball game. Gosh, I got to do this, but is there a recorded version? Like, when is the next one? Well, maybe I'll reschedule my ball game. Like, they'll look for ways to get to the webinar.
Exactly.
And you're like, well, yeah, you can if you want. I mean, we do have a recorded webinar. Would that help your situation? Oh yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. And that bond is there. That trust is there with you. Guys, communication is just getting a person to reframe the way they've been thinking that's allowed the situation to keep happening. What are the 2 biggest problems that direct sales solves? Lack of money and lack of time. How many people do we know there in our society, in our own circle of influence, that want to make more money or have more time with their family? How many do we know? According to Entrepreneur Magazine, it's 98.9% of the civilized population in the world. That is your demographic out there, folks. 99% of all people on planet Earth.
So plenty out there. You just got to know how to talk to them with a special persuasion.
You got to know how to get them to persuade themselves. In our day and age, if you want to be a top performer and if you want to stop playing the nasty, evil numbers game, stop the madness. You don't have to do that. Like, don't pull your freaking hair out every day. Persuasion's so easy if you know how to do it.
Absolutely.
You know?
So, Jeremy, listen, thank you so much for your time. Go spend some time with your daughter. I'm going to share with everybody here a little bit more about what we just about to unveil with our new product. So, and thank you. We appreciate being able to partner with you and what we're about to share with everybody. So,
hey guys, thanks.
I'm going to send him the chat line here. Everybody say thank you, Jeremy. Let him know how much we appreciate everything, especially thanks, before Jeremy. His daughter freaking kills him. So it's very, very important. Both these guys.
My daughter just texted me and left. I'm going to go drive and find her.
Dude,
don't worry.
Do not tell her it was Alex D. Say it was Brian Kaplan that did this to you, okay?
I'm telling it's all these people.
When she sees me at the event.
All right, I'm out of here, guys. I'm out of here. See you. I'm out.
Thanks, Jeremy. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So we're going to do this. I'm going to show you guys this now. So this is actually really, really huge. Tell me y'all love that. Wasn't that awesome? All right, guys, check this out. So some of you are here on as a guest, and that's great. We're glad to have you guys. Just want to make sure you guys can see my screen here.
Hey, Alex, I got the same issue as him. I'm going to run.
Okay.
You need me for anything?
Nope, you're awesome, brother. Enjoy your time. We got daughters doing all kinds of cool stuff. I can't wait till I have kids so I can leave at 5. This is really great. All right, have fun, bro.
Thanks, man.
All right, if you guys are here on as guests, listen, you guys can use these aspects in every aspect of your life, okay? And let me just do this real quick. Let me remove out Jeremy, so we have that covered. Okay, So what can you guys use these aspects? Seriously, forget persuasion is really great for direct sales, but learning these particular questions, everything that Jeremy talked about, problem awareness, solution awareness, consequences. So for those of you who are on as a guest of someone that's actually a member of 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle, realize that you can use this to convince your spouse to do what you want. How cool would that be? I mean, I would love that. Make more sales in your business. But speaking of business, the people that have always wanted to build an online business, but like as he mentioned, they don't have enough time. They don't know where to start, right? So what if you guys had access to products like Jeremy's and others that were top name brands, including how to develop long-term wealth using Facebook communities, and not only that, doing it around your passion. What if you guys knew how to generate cash using Facebook ads for any product or service, or how to get ranked on YouTube with $0 ads? This one product that we have has literally made me personally over $500,000 online, okay, in the last 13 months, 512K to be exact. So, and much, much more. So now imagine, guys, for those of you who are guests, if you could use these products to market and sell it, any product or service online, whatever you have to sell, wouldn't that be pretty cool? But not only that, what if you guys had already had a business that you could license out these products and you can make 100% commissions? So you would have products from Facebook communities, Jeremy's products, have that in your back office and not only be able to utilize it, but you could sell it, make 100% commission. Well, that's our model, okay? Imagine being able to have that product ready to go and have all the marketing, closing, presenting, all that set up for you, where all the persuasion things that Jeremy just talked about are actually done through the webinar, okay? And you can literally do it 15 to 20 hours a week, and you can build it up to making 5 figures a month consistently within 60 to 90 days, okay? So that's a real solution that really can work around your schedule, okay? So here's the next steps, 2 simple steps for those of you who are guests. Get back with the person that invited you to this webinar, gave you this great content, and request a link to watch one of our on-demand webinars on the site now, and we'll show you how. Make sure you get back and watch it over this weekend, guys. Don't waste time, because if you really are looking for the solution, this could be exactly what you're looking for, okay? And you'll have enough opportunity to build a legitimate business online where you can be able to have all the automation, outsourcing, and the support that's in place to help you make a 5-figure a month income online, even though you don't know how to market, even though you don't know how to sell, and we have live mentors in place that will show you guys how to have that success, okay? Now, for all your members, the products, how many of you would love to be able to have just some of the products, including Brian Tracy in our back office? Would that be pretty cool? Raise your hand if you guys want to be able to access this now, like not tomorrow, but right away. All right, so check this out. If you go to your products right now, you click right here under the 6,000, under 7-figure training. Boom! It is available now. Everything that Jeremy just talked about. Has selling trust is dead, all the 7. Guys, you want to start going through this right away. How you guys can be able to follow up with people, how to call your leads, your potential, all the questions, comments he made are all right here in your course. Traditional versus 7-figure sales language. And at the end, we cover the 8-week Academy webinar, which, guys, if you want to have more access to Jeremy, we're going to sign up for that course ourselves. It's an 8-week course where they go one-on-one coaching can help you out. You guys just start going through this right now. You can see the value of what we have, and that is available in our back office. How many of y'all love that? Isn't that like freaking awesome? So excited about that, because now we can help everybody convert better on whatever you guys want to market. And what's so great about this is this gives you guys access to Jeremy's course right now. And you'll have a link, which we'll have by the end of the week. For those of you who want to sign up for his 8-week course, we have a very special pricing with 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle. Now, guys, bear in mind, the course in itself, what we have in our back office, is fantastic. But if you want to do some one-on-one work, as we always have with the product owners, use our link in the back, and you'll get a special 8-Figure Dream Lifestyle discount, okay? So I want to thank Jeremy as he had to run off. I want to thank everybody here for attending. And for members, start going through those awesome products right now so you can become a master persuader and get everything you want. And for our guests, get back to the person who invited you here. Watch our on-demand webinar now. And for those of you that's a match, I look forward to speaking to you guys after and getting you guys to a 5-figure a month online, okay? So with that said, I'm going to say God bless. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for being on, and we'll see you guys on the training. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.